Imagine traveling thousands of miles to watch your country play at their first ever World Cup. Imagine being the most recognizable fan your nation has ever produced. Imagine standing in the stands in Morocco just months ago. So still, so motionless, so powerful that your government gave you a car when you came home. And then imagine your country qualifying for the World Cup for the first time in their history, and the tournament being held just a few hours away by plane, and being told you cannot come in. That is what happened to Michel Kuka Mboladinga, the man who stands still while the world moves around him, the man who dresses in the colors of his flag and raises one arm in silence, not because he does not care, but because he cares so deeply that words are not enough. He was denied a United States visa, and while DR Congo made history on that pitch in Atlanta, he watched from thousands of miles away. Let me tell you who this man actually is, because his story goes far deeper than football. Michel Kuka Mboladinga is not just a fan. He is a living piece of history. He stands in the stands wearing a bright red suit in the colors of the Congolese flag, glasses on his face, one arm raised to the sky, completely still, while thousands of fans around him jump and scream and celebrate. He does not move. He does not shout. He does not sing, because his tribute is not about noise. His tribute is about memory. The arm he raises is the same arm raised in a famous statue of Patrice Lumumba, the first Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, a man who fought for his country's independence from Belgium, a national hero who was executed by firing squad in 1961. Mboladinga bears a striking resemblance to Lumumba. Same face, same glasses, same presence. And every time he stands in those stands with his arm raised, he is saying, "We remember. We are still here. We have not forgotten." That is why his nickname is Lumumba He. And that is why when he returned from the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco earlier this year, the Congolese government gave him a car, not a medal, not a certificate, a car. Because what he does in those stands is bigger than football. Now let me tell you what DR Congo's World Cup journey has looked like. Because context matters here. DR Congo have never played at a World Cup before this tournament. A country of over 100 million people, one of the largest nations on the African continent. And this is their first World Cup appearance. When they qualified, the entire country celebrated. And Mboladinga was ready. He made it to Mexico for the group stage games. He was there in Guadalajara when DR Congo faced Colombia, standing motionless in that red suit, one arm raised, surrounded by noise, but perfectly still. And then DR Congo had to travel to Atlanta in the United States for the next match. And that is where the story took a turn. Mboladinga applied for a United States visa, and it was denied. No full explanation was given publicly. The reason for the denial has never been officially disclosed, which is perhaps the most frustrating part of this entire story. This is a man who the Congolese government considers a national symbol. This is a man who Reuters have covered, who Al Jazeera have covered, who the entire football world knows by sight, and he was told he could not enter the country hosting the World Cup. The Congolese ambassador in Washington, Kapinga Yvette Ngandu, spoke to reporters and said she hoped Mboladinga would get a visa if DR Congo progressed to the knockout stage. She said she hoped he would bring his unique brand of support to the team, but that visa never came. And while his country played their most important match in history in Atlanta, Mboladinga was not there. And here is what makes it even harder to process. DR Congo won that match against Uzbekistan. They qualified for the round of 32 for the first time in their history. The stands in Atlanta erupted. Congolese fans celebrated something their country had never experienced before. And the most famous Congolese fan in the world, the man who has made their flag recognizable around the globe, watched it happen from home, thousands of miles away, unable to be there for the moment his country made history. But the story does not end there, because DR Congo did not just qualify for the round of 32, they drew the biggest possible opponent, England, one of the favorites to win the entire tournament. And that match is being played in Atlanta, in the United States, which means Mboladinga is missing that one too. Think about what that actually means. His country's first ever World Cup knockout match against England in front of a global audience of hundreds of millions, and he cannot get through the door. The man who stood motionless in Morocco, the man who the Congolese government gave a car to, the man who has made the whole world look at DR Congo and feel something, is sitting at home, watching through a screen, while his country prepares for the biggest match in their entire history. But this story is about more than one man missing one match. It is about what this World Cup has revealed about access and fairness. The 2026 World Cup is co-hosted by the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Before the tournament even began, there were serious questions about whether fans from certain countries would be able to get visas to attend matches in the United States. DR Congo was not subject to a blanket travel ban, but Mboladinga still could not get in, and nobody has explained why. His case is not unique either. There have been multiple reports throughout this tournament of fans from African and other nations struggling to get US visas in time to attend matches. People who saved for years to watch their country at a World Cup. People who qualified for tickets through official FIFA channels and still could not get through the door. When a tournament is held in your country, you have a responsibility to the world. And stories like Mboladinga's raise serious questions about whether that responsibility was fully honored. There is a statue of Patrice Lumumba standing in Kinshasa, one arm raised to the sky, a symbol of resistance, of dignity, of hope, and every time Michel Kuka Mboladinga walks into a football stadium, he becomes that statue, he becomes that symbol, he stands still so that history does not stand still with him. He stands still so that people remember. And the cruel irony of this story is that while DR Congo made history beating Uzbekistan, and while they now prepare to face England in the biggest match their nation has ever played, the man who carries their history on his shoulders, the man who has made the world look at a Congolese fan and feel something, is at home watching through a screen because a visa office somewhere decided he could not come in without ever explaining why. And I want you to think about what that actually feels like. Imagine dedicating years of your life to supporting your country. Imagine traveling across the world to stand in those stands, not to cheer, not to sing, not to wave a flag, but to stand completely still in a red suit with one arm raised so that a man who died in 1961 is never forgotten, so that a country of over 100 million people has a face in those stands that the world recognizes. That is what Mboladinga has given to DR Congo, and that is what was taken away from him. Not by an opposing team, not by a bad result on the pitch, but by a piece of paper that never came, a visa that was never explained, a door that was never opened. And what makes it even harder to sit with is this DR Congo versus England is not just a football match. It is a nation stepping onto the world stage. For the first time at the knockout level, it is players who grew up watching the World Cup on small screens in Kinshasa, who never imagined their country would ever be here, who are now walking out in front of tens of thousands of people representing something enormous, and those players deserve every voice, every face, every symbol behind them. They deserve to look up into those stands and see a man in a red suit standing completely still, one arm raised, telling them, we remember where we came from, we have not forgotten what we are fighting for, but that man will not be there, and players will know it, and the fans in those stands will know it, and everyone watching from home will know it, because this story has spread around the world, because people understand instinctively that something is wrong here, that a man who has dedicated himself to representing his country, who has become a national symbol, recognized on every continent, should not be sitting at home watching the biggest match in his country's history through a screen. Football has always been about more than the 90 minutes on the pitch. It's about the people in the stands, the faces that become part of this story, the symbols that give a tournament its meaning, and Mboladinga is one of those symbols, perhaps the most powerful one. DR Congo has ever produced a man who says more by standing still than most people say in a lifetime. And today, while England and DR Congo write the next chapter of this World Cup story, he will be watching from Kinshasa in his red suit, one arm raised, completely still as always. Michel Kuka Mboladinga Lumumba He, still standing even when they would not let him through the door. That is all.